on this episode of Geek Out Loud. What a rush. We're going to do it. The Mixer chat's broke. I don't know that anyone's paying attention, but we're here on your safe place to Geek Out. This is the Geek Out Loud podcast. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Geek Out Loud. My name is Steve. So glad to be along with you on your safe place to geek out, and technical difficulties abound. On my end of Mixler, I could not find the chat at all. In fact, I'll pull it up right now, and either I've just absolutely forgotten where the chat is, or they have taken the chat away from me for some reason. I can't see the chat over on Mixler. However, I can indeed see it here on YouTube and Rumble, all the places where we are. I want to say hello to everyone who's joining us live at Mixler, at Rumble, at YouTube. We're so glad to have all of you here and happy to be along with you. Jeffrey Self, testing, indeed. Test, what's up? Mixler, the Mixler chat is going strong, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't see a word of it. So that makes me sad. So good to see you. So welcome in. Glad to be with you. My name's Steve Glosson. So happy that you've chosen to join in here on the Geek Out Loud. We've got some. I think we got a decent show if I can get it all pulled off just right. We're going to do a little. We got some emails, so I'm excited about that. And you know that's the first place we always go is the emails. We've got the emails coming. We've got some toy talk. I'm going to be a grown man talking about toys. That's going to be fun. And what else? Oh, last week we talked about in our lead up to Fantastic Four First Steps, and we'll talk about it when we get there. But I said I wanted to do the whole Galactus saga, right, and do it well. And so we're going to attempt to do that well this time around, to take a look at the Galactus saga. And if there is time, we will open a Star Wars. As you can see, Lobot is still encased in his plastic with a glare there, trying to get, there we go. Lobot still encased in his plastic. That's because I did not open him to do mediocre toy photography. Have not had an opportunity. Didn't have time, a lot going on, didn't have a chance to do the mediocre action figure photography for Orthodox Star Wars Day. It's still going to happen because my problem is I got all these ideas rumbling around in my brain, and I got to get it out there. So we will get it out there sooner than later. Dave Jones and I will be sitting down soon for Movies with Steve and Dave, and we're going to be talking Superman Returns. Got to get with Shaz Bazaar for the next episode of Hulk Out Loud over on Patreon as well. And I wanted to just say thanks to everyone right out of the gate who's supporting us over there. We greatly appreciate your support over at Patreon. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into some emails. How about that?
Let's read your email.
email time on the show. You know what? Listen, for years we used uh, the Supremes. Wait a minute, Mr. Postman, and you know, can't do that anymore. So here we go. Let's jump into some emails. Our first one comes from Brian Beauchamp. He sent this picture. We talked about Doom 2099 a couple of weeks ago, as we were talking about the person, the character of Doom. We talked about Doom 99, and Brian went looking for a Doom 2099 figure, and this is what he came back with from Etsy. That is a great statue there of Doom 2099. I love the blue. I love the very chrome silver. That's just a great look for Doctor Doom. And I don't know. Like, that's one of those things that I don't know that we would ever get it in Marvel Legends form or whatever. But I would take it. I would gladly take that. But Brian also emailed with this question. And he says, I recently caught shows in Pittsburgh of comedians Nate Bargatze and Tom Papa. Both were hilarious. Random question for the show. Going back to 2007, 2008, I don't think I ever recall you ever mentioning the topic of stand-up comedians. I know you've done some stand-up over the years, but that's a form of entertainment. But is that a form of entertainment you enjoy consuming? And if so, do you have any favorites? Well, does Steve like stand-up comedy? Well, Brian, I will say, yeah, of course I do. As far as favorites go, I will tell you this: the Nate Bargatze specials that have been on Netflix and other places, he is really funny. I really do like his stuff. I like storytellers. I mean, I grew up in the South listening to people like Jerry Clower, and anytime you had, growing up in the church culture, with like Mark Lowry and Wendy Bagwell and the Sunlighters and all these different people who kind of had the funny element to what they were doing. A lot of their stand-up was storytelling, or a lot of their comedy was storytelling, and that just kind of really instilled in me just this love for just good storytelling. And so I love comedians that can get up and tell a story, weave you through, and then hit you with a punchline at the end. And that's kind of what, if I did stand up, that was kind of what I tried to do. I'm not great at writing jokes. I don't know that I'd be good at improv. I enjoy improv as well. I'm one of those guys that I don't mind saying I enjoy improv. I get my improv fix through a lot of podcasts, though. I listen to a lot of improv podcasts. Classic stand-up comedians. I'm obviously, like, Seinfeld is funny to me. It's Jerry Seinfeld. And whenever he's done a new special that I've been able to watch, of course I watch that. The Steve Martin Short special that they did, it's not really stand-up, but it was akin to it. It was really, really good. I tell you, going way back, I say way back, but going back to like the 90s and early 2000s, Stephen Wright, man, that dude he's so good at just being deadpan and dry and just saying the most off the wall things that will just put you in the floor. And that's, I think, so I like storytelling, and I like just weird, whimsical type humor. Paul F. Tompkins is probably, to me, one of my top tier stand-ups. He doesn't do stand-up so much anymore. He's gone more the improv route. And he likes to do shows and productions, and but listen, I don't think it gets any better than Paul F. Tompkins breaking down the anatomy of the horror movie scene where the hero goes into the bathroom, splashes water on their face, and just his whole description of, like, this is everything I need just to splash some water on my face. And then they stand up and look in the mirror. There's the killer in the mirror, and then he talks about, that was always a fear of his until he realized that his bathroom was so small that if for that to happen, there's going to have to be someone's going to have to say, "Excuse me." So, and his kind of, like, that type of observing things and then getting them put down in a format that is genuinely funny, makes people. I totally love the art and I do. I really enjoy stand up. So those are a few that I just as I was thinking about, well, who do I like? And look, Nate Bargatze, I don't want to say flavor of the month right now, like the flavor of the month, but he has his act and what he's done, and the way that he's kind of done his thing has been fresh and good, and honestly, he's very, very funny, and I really enjoy him. Um, I don't like stand-ups that get too blue, that get really dirty. To me, I'm like, that's too easy, it's and it's never as funny as I think they want it to be. So that's not anywhere to go. Let's see what the chat's saying here real quick, because I'm talking, I'm kind of ignoring the chat. Um, Mark, I saw Steve do stand-up live, and it wasn't great, Mark. I'll be honest with you. Um, what's up with geeking out? Does it have to be out loud? Well, yeah, why not? Um, a younger comedian I found through YouTube is Jaron Myers. I've been watching a lot of his podcasts. He has a comedy set on Amazon, but not an Amazon special. John Christ, like everyone else, he also has a podcast. Here's my thing about John Christ. This is where my okay, this is where I'm a little, oh wow, Jeff Lane, what a Mike Warnke. Hey, that's a throwback, Jeff Lane. Um, golly. Okay, so let me address John Christ, and then I'll address Mike Warnke. Um, the thing about John Christ is, and like Tim Hawkins, these are guys that are in like the Christian sphere of stand up and everything. I don't like when people tell me, you would love this person, you really need to listen to this. Isn't this so funny? And there's just something in my makeup that causes me to say, no, I'm good. I'm all right. Or, oh, that's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's almost a hipster kind of thing that happens. I'm ashamed to say. So, so I don't really dig on John Christ. Mike Warnke was one of the I, as a ninth, 10th grader in high school, I guess, with my youth pastor. Man, it might have been even earlier than that. Here's what I know. I know that the first time I heard that guy, I laughed so hard that I could not breathe. And it was his story about jogging. And taking up jogging because everyone was jogging, and and he talked about his belly hitting his face. And I've stolen the joke. I will say I have since stolen the joke. And he says he was running, his belly kept hitting him, and then finally his belly button, his shirt rolled up, and his belly button formed a suction to his forehead, and he almost died right there in the street. And and so I just remember laughing so hard with him. Um, Mike had some issues apparently with his testimony, maybe being a little exaggerated. I'm not sure. He's still alive, and he does a lot of speaking and stuff, and everything now, and pretty pretty cool stuff. So anyway, yeah, man, those are the kinds of people I grew up with. So, but when it comes to like newer stuff, if everyone's like, "Oh, you'd love it," a lot of times I don't, because I end up being a contrarian, and I don't mean to be. So yeah, to answer your question, Brian, yeah, I like stand up. I like stand up. I like it. Um, Next, from Commander Bly in the chat. I actually responded to him just a few minutes ago saying I was going to show all this, whether he liked it or not. Commander Bly wrote in and said, glad to see you live streaming on the tubes, good sir. Just wanted to share a couple of costume pics of myself and my son. We're members of the 501st Legion. I built my first costume in 2006, and this is his Commander Bly costume that he goes with. This is from Tom, aka Commander Bly, and he's Commander Bly in the chat. He is part of the Replay Zoo crew, as he likes to call it. And this is a little bit of him in action right here, running through the woods at some ruins of some sort. And then this is he and his son, who has an Arc Commander suit, an Arc Commander Blitz suit, as it were. and this is them along with someone else, and there they are together, father and son. And then 501st walking down the hall. It's always fun when you see clone troopers or stormtroopers at your place of employment. It's always a good time. So thanks, Commander, for sending those in. I appreciate you, brother. And yeah, the 501st, great. Some great folks there at the 501st, and we appreciate what they do. Very, very, very cool. So um, appreciate you. Then Jeffrey Self. And Jeffrey's kind of got a two-parter going here that we'll get to. Jeffrey emails in. He says a couple of thoughts. He says, "Hey, Steve, I hope you're doing well. Just want to give my thoughts on a couple of things, and I hope I don't seem like I'm screaming at the clouds too much." Well, just in case, uh, let's do this. Let's throw this up there just to be on the safe side. How about that? Old man screaming at clouds. AI, do your thing. There it is. All right. So Jeffrey says, Andor. I thought season 2 was okay overall, but just like season 1, you seem to have to slog through a lot of not good to get to the okay parts. If you listen to interviews with Tony Gilroy, he seems almost irritated to have to give any regard to canon. Is it wrong that people think Star Wars made by someone who does not seem to like Star Wars is a good thing? Moving on, the Superman trailer. I'm trying to remain casually optimistic. I'm loving Crypto and the fact that Lois knows that he's Superman. I really like the fortress design and the robots. This already feels like it's going to have more heart than Man of Steel. Oh, Dave Jones, I hope you don't hear that. The only nit I have to pick is, do we really need Lex at the fortress again? I don't understand why Lex seemingly always has to find it. I think I've done the grumpy old man act enough. See you, Steve. And that is from Jeffrey Self. So this will be an email that we tackle in two parts. First of all, should Star Wars creators like/respect the canon? Well, here's the interesting thing about that. By the way, total aside here, ladies and gentlemen, got to spend time with Derek Russell earlier this week, and he had his kids with him, and they decided they were going to do the Pee Wee's Playhouse secret word thing. And the secret word was, if Steve says, "Here's the thing," everybody screams. Well, of course, in the course of our meal together, I said, "Here's the thing," and everybody screamed. Anyway, should Star Wars creators like or respect the canon? Well, what's interesting is, when you go back and you watch particularly season 2, there are things that are said and spoken about and referenced and shown that actually very much fit into what has been established as Star Wars canon. I think the irritation for any creator that's going to play in that world is being so bound by it. Well, think about this. Like, even George Lucas found himself backed into corners, I think, that he may not have originally intended to be backed into, but as he began to write the prequels, he found himself in a position where I think we all thought Obi-Wan and Vader were a little older than they were by the time you get to the original Star Wars. You think about it, Vader is going to be a man in his 40s. Obi-Wan is a man in his, what, 60s? Maybe a little younger. Maybe 50s, so they don't. It just really depends on how old Obi-Wan is supposed to be in the Phantom Menace. Anyway, then you've got the whole idea of what Leia has to say to Luke on Endor. He says, "Do you remember your mother?" And she says, "They're mostly just images. Mainly, she was very pretty but very sad." Well, Leia, how does Leia? Obviously, you retcon that and you say, well, this is stuff that's coming to her through the Force about her mother as someone who's Force sensitive, and we realize that. But at the same time, I think we all expected her to have a little more time with her mom than what Luke did. We expected maybe for I don't know. I just know that there were some things that seemed like we, you know, George Lucas's prequel story kind of had some things that didn't quite, you had to bend and some things to fit into there. And I think that when you start to get so focused on canon in stories like this, you end up having those issues. And I think that's probably just from a writer standpoint, that's where Tony Gilroy comes from. I have not really spoken about Andor since it ended. I was happy with the way it ended. I want to go back and rewatch when I have time and really kind of chew on it a little bit more than I did, because a lot of what I spoke about it with Andor was a knee jerk reaction kind of thing. And once we got to those final few episodes of season 2, I realized I kind of like, okay, this is what they're doing with the show. And I know I'm slow on the uptake. I get it. I will tell you that I think Andor's bigger problems come down to not necessarily storytelling, but the structure of the storytelling and the way the story is told. I I don't think it's wrong to say it moved too slowly. I don't. I think that when you look at it, there were some editing choices that should have been made and a little tighter editing here and there. I think there are definitely some Star Wars visuals that should have been leaned on more. And that's one of the things I think that happened in season 2 more than season 1 is we leaned on those visuals a little bit more. Um and I think that, you know, as much as Tony Gilroy didn't seem to necessarily want to be beholden to canon, I think the more you kind of dig and pick apart little things here and there, you find out that he really was very much um he did very much adhere to the canon and then some, like just right down to Easter eggs and stuff that he put out there. It really is impressive thing that he did to I'll give you a quick for example. There's a Gungan shield in the background in Luthen's shop. Like one of the shields they use with in the battle on Naboo, not to start them up the shield, but the little handheld shields they all had. Just little nuances like that really are special. Um, anyway, so should Star Wars creators like respect? I think they should. I definitely think they should. Um, I think if they're irritated by it, but they respect it, great. As long. But then, should Star Wars have such a strict canon? And I think that really is the big question. Star Wars is myth, and it's meant to be myth. And I think that one of the Star Wars, I don't want to say it begins to fall apart, but it begins to the mythology of Star Wars is lessened when it's watered down with vast details and strict adherence to canon. I don't know well, look, we went through years of these books, with no other movies or anything. And if George Lucas decided he didn't like what was in the books, and we saw this especially with the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars would undo something that had been done in the novels and the comics in a heartbeat because they said this is a Star Wars story. But the expanded universe was its own thing. And I think fans were okay with looking at the expanded universe. Well, well, a lot of fans were okay with looking at the expanded universe as being kind of like, well, this is what happens in mythology sometimes over time. It changes and there's some things that get wrong. Like you take like the Clone Wars micro series, and I always think of that episode that features Mace Windu alone against a vast army of super battle droids. Is that canon? Or is that one little boy's, because we see that little boy at the end, kind of who'd been watching this whole thing, is that one little boy's memory of what took place. He was so amazed with the Jedi that he didn't notice anything else. And he just saw this Jedi going through and tearing down this whole thing. And so his story was, I watched a Jedi kill 1,000 battle droids, that kind of thing. Um, so it's that kind of thing. So what is canon anymore? And obviously even now, even since they've started the canon over, there's been things that have apparently um uh, contradicted and retconned what has come before. I'm not. What's the chat saying over here? I haven't. I'm going to have to be two glasses glossing here, um, two paired glossing. Um, they should have C3PO as the narrator. Um, have you seen all the AI of the Empire scene where Vader's trying to talk Luke into join him, but it's reversed? I have not, Mark, but I have seen some AI created things of like Tarkin and Vader talking, um, or just before Vader is going right, or Vader after the battle with Luke, in his meditation chamber after Luke has gotten away, that kind of thing. And there's some really neat things that they've done. Um, he says, if you don't respect canon, you could end up being cannon fodder. Indeed, Jay Vilk, that's true. But at the same time, again, what is canon? They definitely shouldn't break canon, but they shouldn't do backflips to tie every loose end or do fan service. I agree, Jeff Lane. I think that's kind of the thing. Um, that you shouldn't have to worry about every loose end. And I think that we've started calling loose ends plot holes, and we've started calling everything that's not necessarily fully explained a plot hole. And that's not a plot hole. That's just connect the dots yourself. Tintin says we used to have levels of canon, which worked. Yeah, you had your G level canon, which were the movies and stuff. You had your fan canon, you had your fan universe canon, as it were. You had the expanded universe canon. You had a lot of different stuff that went. A lot of people in the clone costume community lost their minds when George overrode Karen Travis's Republic Commando books. Absolutely. And see, that was one of the things that gave me pause, because I remember what went on with the Karen Travis controversy and everything, where she got mad and everyone else got mad. And the thing is, though, is like that's not her. She was getting to play in that sandbox. She didn't own the sandbox. And it's just, of course, that was years ago. Good night. Um, Everything's canon in Star Wars from a certain point of view. Absolutely. Um, So, the next part of his conversation had to do, though, with Lex and the Fortress. Lex of the Fortress again. Jeff, I'll be honest with you. Um, I gotta address this real quick, Jeff Lane. I need a story to explain how Aunt Brew gets the cuts for blue milk. Yeah, it's a 15-minute short of her going shopping in Anchorhead and Moss Eisley, just trying to find the perfect Tupperware cups. Anyhow, back to the email. Jeffrey talks about and you know what? I am looking forward to Superman. Um, it's so weird to me to hear different people talk about these things in different ways. Like everyone's so certain there's going to be a flop, or, oh, this has been a terrible thing that has taken place, and there's been screenings and no one likes it and all this stuff, and they've had to change this and that and blah, 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 yakety schmackety, blah, blah. Okay, I mean, is that so? Where are we getting this information? And a lot of times, I mean, I guess sure. I don't know. I mean, have they done some editing in the waning days? Maybe, probably. Should they? I couldn't tell you. I can't comment on that because I've not seen anything but trailers. Um, I think I've made my concerns pretty clear as far as Uncle Uncle Rico sold Aunt Brew the 32-piece set. I think I've made my concerns pretty clear as far as it being James Gunn who's directing, and then the inclusion of all these other heroes. Someone came in, I noticed it. Maybe it was a comment that was made under one of the videos where we talked about this, and they said all of those heroes, Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific, I guess Metamorpho, and whoever else may be in this thing, apparently they're all working for someone else. They're like the Justice. They're call themselves the Justice Gang, or I don't know. Anyhow, and at the end, he draws them together to form the Justice League. Who knows? Who knows if that's true or not? I should have said spoiler alert, I guess. Sorry, everybody. I just wanted to focus on Superman. I don't want to focus on all these other people. And what I am interested in is is the feel of it, and it needs to be hopeful. It needs to be fun. It needs to Superman needs to come out of this thing awesome, because when you consider Superman Returns, which I love Superman Returns, don't get me wrong, but I can't deny that there's a whole scene where Superman flies to Lois and what's his face's house and basically spies on them through their family dinner. That's that's not very redeemable in my book. That's not very Supermanish to me. Everything else he does is, but that just not that. Um, Man of Steel was, golly, there were so many. That is a puzzle where all the right pieces were there, and for whatever reason, um, not all the not all the pieces went together in the right way. It just seems like, and that's unfortunate because it had a lot of potential, and it just, I don't know, it makes me sad that's how that worked out. But so what I'd like is this to come away being something where people are like, man, I like Superman. Superman's great. That's kind of my thing. As far as Lex going to the fortress again, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it does seem, I was even like hoping we wouldn't have a Lex Luthor as a villain, maybe as a presence, but not as a villain. Because I was really hoping that we would get like a Brainiac or anything, that's not Lex, any of Superman's villains, Metallo, have a whole Metallo movie kind of thing. Uh, but Lex is it, man. Everyone goes to Lex, and that's fine. That's fine. And this is one of those things where I'll just wait and see. Obviously, has Lex been to the fortress before? We don't know. This picks up on Superman in a time where he has been around for a little bit. So that's the thing. Jimmy and George, I switched to a different account for shameless self-promotion. I learned from watching Steve, from watching you, Steve. Okay. I learned from watching you. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, look, it's Superman. What more can you ask for? It's the Man of Steel, and as much as we want things a certain way, we can't get you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you get what you need. And I just hope it's entertaining, and I hope that it's some good stuff. Naomi says all the other Superman heroes and Max Lord in the Peacemaker season 2 trailer. And see, I didn't finish Peacemaker. It's just too vulgar, and I don't mean, I'm not a prude, but I mean, it's like, I don't want to sit and just watch that type of, like, just dropping these words and just stuff over and over and over again. It's that blue humor and that sort of thing. So, you know, uh, so yeah, that's where I'm at on that. I think that I'm looking forward to it. And if Lex goes to the fortress, I mean, obviously it's not just Lex going by himself. He's bringing that crazy buzzsaw lady there, and Crypto's going to go after her. And I tell you what, if they hurt that dog, we might have a Superman as John Wick situation on our hands, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants Superman going full John Wick. So, anyways, all right. Well, let's do this. Let's reset with a little bit of a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about all kinds of fun things. I want to do some toy talk. We hadn't done a lot of that on the show. I'd like to do, if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to do a little toy talk. So let's take a break. We'll be right back on your Safe Geek Out. It's Geek Out Loud. We'll be back after this. If you enjoy the fun of Geek Out Loud and you're in a position to support the show, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/geekoutloud. Patreon supporters get exclusive shows, including lost episodes of The Big Honkin' Show, if we find them, The Movie Show with Steve and Dave, Hulk Out Loud with Shaz Bazaar, Petra Means Rock Out Loud, The Forceology Course with Professors Glosson and Shaz, The Hot Tub Geek Machine, and now ad-free episodes of Geek Out Loud. Also, enjoy exclusive access to the Geek Out Loud Discord, which is a thing I forgot, and it's a thing, so I haven't checked it out in weeks, probably months. But you can get access if you enjoy laughing and good discussions about all the things we enjoy. Then the Geek Out Loud Patreon experience is for you. Thanks to all of you who have supported in the past, are supporting now, or even if you're just thinking about it. It means the world to me, and I look forward to seeing you there. Here's a clip from a recent episode, well, not so recent, over on Patreon. Listen, he's kicked out. He's waking up.
Uh-oh.
He's waking up.
Oh, that's a nice shot of the mountain there.
Yeah. I believe that's a fake mountain.
Yes, I'm sure.
There's Godzilla. Look
and this
below.
is the stuff. This is the stuff they used early in the movie when we were worried about that guy jumping over the rail.
Yes, here we go. Listen, we're about to see an awesome move by King Kong here. I just want you to know, because this is it now. This is the fight. This is what we've been waiting for. Godzilla's not running away. I mean, King Kong's not running away this time.
He's ready.
They got to let that monkey go. Drop the monkey. There we go.
Monkey.
Now watch. Here we go. He's coming down.
Oh, my gosh.
Boom.
Oh,
and Godzilla goes tumbling.
Grief.
Godzilla is down. That's right. Film it, buddy. Kong's up. Kong's up. He's going up the hill again. It's over, Godzilla. I have the high ground. You are my brother, Godzilla.
I loved you.
He has the high ground. Here comes Godzilla. You underestimate my power. And now the big brain King Kong, it looks like he's going back to the well for something that didn't work last time, maybe? Is he? Oh, I thought he was looking for a rock.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, he's coming
that
around.
Look bad there with the arms.
Where'd Kong go? Oh, Kong is using his big brain.
Yeah.
Using his big brain to hide from Godzilla. Little pea brain Godzilla now looking around. Godzilla's confused as to what's going on. Marco. Polo.
Congo.
Yeah. Kong now. Watching that tail. He's got him by the tail. I've got a lizard by the tail. Yeah, and Kong continuing to go back to the tail. Godzilla trying to get away from him, Dave, trying to take a powder. Godzilla doesn't want any of Kong this time.
You don't want any part of that.
Kong's figured out if you don't get in front of him, he can't use that breath on you. The tail's too much. The tail's too much for Kong. The arm flapping, that can only signal one thing. Oh, right in the face with a rock.
Ow!
He's going to do it again, but not this time.
Oh, man.
Godzilla. Oh, Kong unfazed. Now it's on. Atomic breath. But Godzilla, King Kong has seen that before, Dave. He hates the smell of burnt hair. Here we go. Collar elbow tie up.
Yeah.
And
it's like Kong going for a choke there. Can't quite get it.
Godzilla trying to get the underhand, trying to get the control. Well, maybe that was funny and possibly informative or thought-provoking. Maybe. Check out patreon.com/geekoutloud to support the show. All right, it's time to talk about Stand Shoes. That's standshoes.com, and you can use my promo code there, Geek Out Loud. Standshoes.com. Stand shoes are designed for anyone that's on their feet all day or recovering after a workout. They offer slip-resistant soles, fluid resistance, cloud-like comfort. Backed by innovation and lab-tested comfort, they keep you standing tall. Enjoy a discount on any product at your checkout at standshoes.com using my code GEEKOUT. Use GEEKOUT at checkout at Stand Shoes. Now, I want to tell you something. I went ahead and ordered a pair of these bad boys. They're not the prettiest in the world, but I will say that I absolutely find them perfectly comfortable. And then when I say perfectly comfortable, I mean When they say it's like walking on a cloud, GQ says it's like walking on a cloud. It is. I will I'm, in my day job, I'm standing up in front of people for an hour or more sometimes. And when you're as big as I am, and your back starts to hurt a little bit, your feet start to hurt a little bit, your knees start to hurt a little bit. On Sunday nights and Wednesday nights, I've started actually wearing those shoes, and the difference they make in my discomfort after being up on my feet for over an hour just in one place, kind of barely shuffling around, is remarkable. I wouldn't say it if it weren't true. Standshoes.com, standshoes.com. Use the promo code GEEKOUT for 15% off any product that you desire to get from them. And I will say, I don't think you'll be disappointed in them. They're machine washable, bleach friendly. They're easy to clean. Average weight of 5.7 ounces, lighter than most smartphones. They were featured in Forbes Next 1000. They're recognized as a top innovator in footwear. Standshoes.com. It's the highest exclusive discount, they say, for my listeners. Promo code GEEKOUT. GEEKOUT promo code at standshoes.com. You can click the link in the description below. Also, we're happy to have along with us Distill Union, DISTIL, Distill Union, distillunion.com. They craft sleek problem-solving essentials like the Wally wallets and Ferris key organizers. I'll get it. Organizers designed with a less is more philosophy. They're durable, intuitive products, simplify everyday routines with style. Enjoy a discount, 20% off any product, 20% off any product when you use the code GEEKOUT. You're talking about a business that was founded almost 15 years ago, back in 2011. They're still around today. This isn't one of those just kind of flash in the pan online businesses. Minimalist wallets called the Wally wallets are known Wally wallets. Let's not send this one to them. Wally wallets, known for magnetic closure, slim profiles that securely hold your cards and cash. Their key organizers use magnets to snap your essentials together, keeping everything in one streamlined setup. Distill Union problem-solving accessories are made from premium materials like full-grain leather that ages beautifully over time, ensuring durability and style. Backed by a 3-year warranty, their products are built to last and engineered for everyday ease, offering the perfect balance of practicality and sophistication. So check them out. Distill Union, that's DISTIL Union.com. Use my promo code GEEKOUT when you check out for 15% off of any product. DistillUnion.com. Click the link in the description below if you want to find out more about them. Let's get back into the show. Welcome back in to the show proper. Steve Lawson, glad to be along with you. Hey, please at least check the sponsors out, see what they've got. If they've got anything that interests you, or as a gift on those websites, it'll really help us out when you use those affiliate links. They're down in the description below, and would greatly appreciate you using them. And of course, we've got t-shirts over at tpublic.com. There's a link in the description below for that as well. I need to get some images to put up here of what all we've got over there, so you could see a little bit. Well, you know what? I want to do it. I've been wanting to do it for a little while now, and I have nothing near me that I should be grabbing except for one little thing. But you know what? That's fine. Let's do some toy talk. Toy talk time here on Geek Out. That's the new toy talk theme. Maybe. They're not dolls, they're action figures. Get it right. That's what I'm talking about. Mark All says, I'm actually doing things. Nice, Mark. Let me know when you want to promote what you're doing, and we'll make it happen. So, where to begin? I have been a collector of toys for a little while now. And it's interesting because anytime you get grown men into some kind of hobby like this, I don't know if it's always been this way, but those of us who are of the geek persuasion will find things to complain about with no problem whatsoever. And it seems like in the toy collecting community, it's the same way. I guess I experienced a little bit of this in comic book reading and comic book collecting, and I have my fair share of complaints about the state of comic books and the state about whatever the case may be. And but I want to be angry about toys. Exactly. Let's do this for the uninitiated. If those of you who are like, oh my gosh, we're talking about toys. Why in God's name is a grown man talking about toys? That is a great question. I will take you back. Take you back. Take you back. For a lot of people of my generation that were kids in the 80s, that was a time, and we've talked about this on the show before, that was a time where everything was sticking. It was really, you had your big ones, that were super out there, but then you also had little things that just kind of made a lasting impact on all of us. Marketing, licensing became kind of the theme of the day, and so there was not much that went unlicensed because of Star Wars and what happened in 1977 and 78 with Kenner and the Star Wars license. And then everyone's like, well, let's do this. Up until that point, really, Mego was the company that was licensing most things, and they were doing all the superhero stuff. They did some Star Trek stuff, but Star Wars came along and really kind of changed the game. And they took things down from, a 5-inch doll size or a 12-inch doll size down to the old 3 3/4 inch size. And I have this is not a vintage. This is a retro collection. Luke Skywalker here, but he's done up very much like the original Jedi Luke from the Kenner line back in 1983. The thing is, when you think about kids like me, when I was a kid, these things mattered. We were not just, we were watching the movies, we were tuning in the cartoons, and so these things were big deals. And I didn't know a kid who wasn't at least a little bit into Star Wars, or a little bit into G.I. Joe, a little bit into He-Man, a little bit into Transformers. And you had kids that were a lot, and we all had our favorites, and then you had companies that tried to make things hit and stick that didn't necessarily. Now, if you watch a lot of YouTubers today, you're going to hear them talk about, oh man, Visionaries were awesome, and Battle Beasts were the greatest things ever. And what are some other things? Silverhawks has kind of been the big thing lately, where everyone's like, oh, Silverhawks this, Silverhawk. And the thing is like, okay, yeah, those were cool, but they didn't have the sticking power of even a Mask or or the big ones. I think the big four: Star Wars, G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, not necessarily in that order. And I think we all love things like Mask and Voltron. The point is that these things were important to us. If you ever see Andy on Toy Story, I mean, that's kind of those are the kids that a lot of us were, and our toys mattered, and they just kind of fired our imagination. And for me, as I've said, Star Wars was always kind of the foundation of my geekdom. And I just kind of, when I got old enough, I just kind of put the Star Wars stuff away and went to college, did my thing. But when about the time I went to college, Kenner came back out with what's called the Power of the Force 2 line. This is the He-Man looking Star Wars figures. And I honestly, I don't know if Kenner was owned by Hasbro at that point or not. I don't think they were. But I remember, in the mid 90s, I was just starting college and everything, but there was a Toys R Us not far from the campus, and we bumped down there every now and again. And I had a few. I got a handful of the ones that looked the best to me. I didn't care for the big old buff look of a lot of them, but I thought it worked for Vader. I love the 3PO and R2 from that line. I thought they looked great. There was something, I didn't care for the Chewie or the Han look or the Lando, but I got the Vader, even though he was a little buffer than you remember, but it worked for him. And then they started to put out more, and they began to get their sculpts a little bit better. And so I ended up with just a good little handful of these things, not for any other reason, just to stick them on a bookshelf at college. And I wasn't like collecting. I couldn't afford to collect. But when I got out of college, I didn't graduate, but when I got out and got into the workforce and got into, a career and everything, and discovered eBay, and Brian's Toys, I started kind of, and I got my old stuff out. And honestly, like I wasn't aware of, and this is like 2000, 2001-ish. So I'm not really super online a lot, yet. We're still very much in the dial up or DSL line area, area and era. And so, you didn't get on and spend a lot of time online in those days. I just knew that when I got my own place and I had some extra space, I'm like, I would like to make this space like a Star Wars room and kind of have like a little museum of sorts. Not that I had a huge collection, but I wanted to display the stuff that I had so that I could walk in there and see it and enjoy it and everything. And so by that point, we're headed into Attack of the Clones. The Power of the Jedi line is kicking. I've still got all my vintage stuff, and I'm like, I would really like to look in to see if I can, maybe buy parts for some of my stuff and fix up, get some stuff that I never was able to get, that sort of thing. And this was just before everything started getting really super duper expensive. And so we're off to the races, man. And I got heavy back into collecting primarily Star Wars, but then Marvel Legends hit. And as a comic book guy, as a comic book kid, a Marvel kid especially, I'm like, well, yes, sir. Thank you very much. I loved what Toy Biz was doing with Marvel Legends. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I'd never dreamed of having action figures that way. And so it just kind of began to feed this thing. And toy collectors now, men like me who are, middle-aged and Gen Xers, and this is kind of our coin collecting or stamp collecting kind of thing, that the people who came before us did. This is for us in a lot of ways, those things, just a lot harder to kind of tuck away, than coins and stamps. So I just understand that this is something that I don't know. It's interesting because I didn't mean to become this. It just kind of happened because I'm like, I like this stuff. This will be kind of a neat thing to do. And then before you know it, I'm in. And there's just something about going at the time. It was like going and hunting and finding something you didn't have on the pegs, and being like, oh, that's so cool. Now you just have to buy, pick the retailer and beat all the sellouts before you get there. And by sellouts, I mean all the toys that sell out. So it is that over the course of the past several years, there has cropped up this community of toy. I hate to use this word, but influencers, YouTubers, and they all have different angles. You have the people that just want to review things, and that's fun and good. And I don't know that I'd be I tried my hand at kind of doing that on a video a while back, but I don't know. have the patience or the understanding of really how the toys are made or how they work to really talk about them a lot and do it well. I But then you've got the people who comment and just kind of give commentary on what's being done, and you have the people that kind of combine the two things, and you have people that just kind of like, look at this fun thing, look at this fun thing, this is really cool. And then you have the toy photographers, which is what I really enjoy doing. That I enjoy, posing these things to the best of their abilities, and seeing, how much you can kind of make comic book art come alive with some of these. The Hulk I hold in my hands here, this is what's called, commonly referred to as the 80th anniversary Hulk. Not that the Hulk was 80, but they were celebrating Marvel's 80th anniversary at the time. And this guy came in a 2-pack with Wolverine, the first appearance Wolverine. And so the idea was celebrating the first appearance of Wolverine in Hulk issue number 181. And up to this point, like this face, look at this face. This really to me represents in so many great ways the classic Bronze Age, Copper Age, whatever the 70s and 80s, before he turned gray again. This really to me represents that era of the Hulk, and it has been my favorite figure that I've had in my collection since I got him. I've been very happy with him, and what happens is Hasbro reuses a lot of these pieces and parts, and they've reused it for a lot of different Hulks. So you've got a gray Hulk that's not Mr. Fix-It, not Las Vegas Hulk, but a gray Hulk who is made with this same body, just painted different in a different head sculpt. You've got a red Hulk, that same body, painted different color, different head sculpt. You've got Maestro, which is the future Hulk. By the way, Peter David, we need to do a whole episode, a big chunk of an episode at least, about Peter David. So next week, Lord willing, and if we're here, depending on scheduling and stuff, I really want to talk about Peter David, who passed away earlier this week. So sad to hear of his passing. Anyway, what a weird, sorry about that guy passing. Anyway, let's talk about a toy. Terrible segue. Should have just kind of kept the thought out. Anyway, this head sculpt to me is classic, but I never had a problem with it. But people then start, as the time goes on, like, look, he's got butterfly joints that'll get his arms way back like this, so he can leap at you. He's got a little bit of an ab crunch thing going, and so you can kind of get him, coming at you, bro. And he's got multiple hands. I don't have any of his fist hands on there, but you can get him posing where like he's ready to grab you. He can't look up very well. He doesn't. He looks down. He's got a little bit of a twist to him and that sort of thing. And his legs are pretty well, double. It's called a double knee here. Anyway, so Hasbro has done this line called the Maximum line, and they started with a Spider-Man that was supposed to be like, this is the last Spider-Man you'll ever need to own, or this is the best Spider-Man we've ever made. And they retooled and did a whole new body and stuff for them. And apparently that's a really expensive prospect, because what you're doing is you're not just sculpting a figure, you're then having that figure, you're having molds of that figure made and cut into steel for plastic injection molding. And apparently those plates, those steel tooling plates, are expensive. Metal or steel, I don't know if they're steel, but they're metal. And so you're talking about thousands of dollars to just do a figure. Okay, and that's why they'll reuse so many bits and parts and that sort of thing. So can't look up very well, like Batman 1989, exactly like him. So the Spider-Man, everyone's price points and everything. Again, people are complaining, and people, call out Hasbro for like their maximum profit Spider-Man and that sort of thing. I totally get it. Totally fine with that. I'm amused by people. There's some funny channels out there who take digs at Hasbro and even take digs at other YouTubers. Love it. Funny, good stuff. And because you do have some YouTubers that seem like every time something new comes out, they're like, oh, this is it. This is in, I'm not I'm not. Look, we don't even have 400 subscribers on this channel. Who am I to call out anybody? I'm not about to call out anybody. But I will say it does seem like, just like in other aspects of our geek media, there are people who refuse to say anything for fear of hurting the feelings and getting out of some kind of access. I don't know that Hasbro's sending free toys to anybody, but I do think that there's a certain level of access that some people enjoy based on the fact that they are always, patting them on the back. Neither here nor there. I also think that there are people who are absolutely going to hate everything that's done by Hasbro and in the Marvel Legends area, and and they're just going to continue their ways. That's fine. That's up to them. But I do think that Hasbro's made some weird decisions and some poor decisions. And there are things that I understand the business model, but I don't think the business model is a good one anymore, especially for people who are passionate about some of this stuff. Neither here nor there. So they make the Maximum Spider-Man, the Maximum series Spider-Man, and people like it. Okay, it is what it is. It's a very Todd McFarlane-esque Spider-Man, and he's super posable, and he's got a lot of accessories they've never put out with the Spider-Man, and that's fine. He's whatever, great. I haven't gotten my hands on one to mess around with it to know, how good it is or how not good it is. I'm still working with let's see which one is this guy. This is the I think this is the retro card black series, or not black series, but black suited Spidey, and it's a good figure. I mean, you've got an ab crunch and you've got a bend at the waist that can help him get real low. He can look up. He can kind of get into his Spidey crouch because you've got a great, with the ab crunch at the torso, you've got a good bend at the torso. And so you can kind of get him in a good Spidey crouch, bring his knees up, and then bring him over this way. And you can, once you get his arm extended out. And the thing about these things is I'll shout out a guy. His name is his YouTube is Just Jay Hernandez, and Just Jay does incredible work posing and balancing these figures, and so when you can see, like, he's super posable. This is great, and this is not even considered to be the best Spidey. So it's just they're doing these things and they're doing great with them, and people are liking it or people are hating it based on, because they're a little more expensive. Well, they did the next Maximum series they did was Hulk. I was excited. I'm like, oh, cool. We'll get a new sculpt and everything. And they didn't do a new sculpt. And it's really kind of weird because they set up a certain expectation. And if I have any issue with the folks at Hasbro and the people they put out front, it's that they set these certain expectations based on how they came out of the gate with the Spider-Man. And then they get offended when people don't like what they've done with the Hulk. Again, I didn't have the problem with this particular body that a lot of people had. I really like this Hulk. I like this head sculpt. The head sculpts they've put on the Maximum series Hulk are not that great. They're meant to be like Del Keown, Ed McGuinness, who I love Ed McGuinness's Hulk, and Mike Deodato. And they're just not, they're slightly off Hulks is what they are. And so I'm interested to know, and unfortunately they say that this head doesn't look great on them, and I can't get this guy's head off right now because he doesn't really have, there we go. So, that's the thing, you can swap a head. So I'm hoping that this head looks okay on the Maximum series Hulk, because and here's the big thing that they've been selling with him. I should have gotten a picture and had this ready to go for everyone. See how there's no way to get his arm here beyond this point here. So Hulk has his thunderclap pose that his thunderclap power that it's not a power, but it's a move that he'll do where he just slaps his hands. Well, he can't do that move like this. He can't get it. So they've made butterfly joints that'll come out to what they're called butterfly joints. That's what these things are. They go in and out. And so what they did is they've taken, but because they didn't want you to see cuts in his pecs, they've got like a rubber overlay there so that it hides those butterfly joints. And And honestly, it literally seems like, because everyone who reviews it, the accessories they put with them, which are like a big explosion type accessory or noise type accessory, and then some swooshing things that you can hook on his arms. It really seems like they made this Hulk, and the only thing they cared about was getting that thunderclap move in with him. I think that's kind of a poor planning kind of thing. Like, we can do better than that. There's more that the Hulk needs to be able to do than just that. The Hulk needs to be able to take someone's face and smash it into the ground. So he needs to have that ability to bend and move. And it's hard with the bulkier figures. It's just interesting to me that there's this whole mentality, though, that because Hasbro didn't do it this way, everyone's going to be angry about it and get upset, or everyone's going to feel like they have to defend Hasbro. I just think Hasbro shouldn't have set those expectations. I think they should have come out of the gate with Hulk and then done Spider-Man. They say they're going to continue the Maximum series. I don't know what their plan is for that. The talk is Captain America potentially, which I think that could be really interesting. I don't know that he needs that type of treatment. Wolverine will probably definitely get it because everyone loves Wolverine. I'd like to see them hit a Maximum series. Mr. Fantastic, we'll come back to that in a moment with what they revealed today. Because the thing that's happened in more recent years with Mr. Fantastic is they did 7 years ago a Walgreens exclusive set of the Fantastic Four, and that Reed Richards came with regular arms and then some stretchy arms. The next Reed Richards they did, all they had were hands with elongated fingers. You need more than that for Reed Richards. And so I think it'd be really neat to get a Maximum series Mr. Fantastic that has has legs that are stretchy, arms that are stretchy, maybe even a stretchy torso kind of thing, maybe some different shapes that he comes with that he's kind of, morphed into and everything. I doubt they'll ever do that, though. That's kind of the unfortunate thing. But as they're messing around with these kind of looser, rubbery plastic overlays, I say let's go with that mutated thing. That is, let's try it out, guys. I believe in you. That's the technology you need to pull off that thing. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get a lot of motion and stuff in his arm. So we'll see, how things go with that. But today, Marvel, the Marvel Legends team at Hasbro, did a presentation of some upcoming products. One of the things they're promoting, of course, is the upcoming movie, The Fantastic Four: The First Steps. Let's embiggen that a little bit. This is their Mr. Fantastic. It's a Pedro Pascal likeness. Obviously, they have that on the books because they're Mandalorian stuff and everything. But he is, you can see he's got some stretchy arms with him, and I'm not going to go through everything, but you can see he's got some stretchy arms with him, and they're wired, so they're bendy. So you can not only stretch him, but bendy. And I don't know that I don't know if his hands are permanently plugged in there or not into those arms. It looks like they're not. It looks like those hands that are on his arms may be interchangeable with other hands, but don't hold me to that. I'm not really sure. Maybe not. No, I don't think they are, because he's got hands and he's got fists that are exchangeable. They should be, but I don't know that they would be. But if they were, that'd be great, because he needs a fist on one of those to be punching, do the long punch. But one of the neat thing about this is we kind of get a good look at the costumes, even though we've seen that on the thing. And it's interesting because these things seem to not be as form-fitting as like tights and everything. They even seem to be thicker than what the Fantastic Four costumes were in the Tim Story movies back in the early 2000s. Then we've got Johnny Storm, and okay, there he is. And he comes with some effects that we've seen before. These fire effects that are right here. We've seen those in 1,000. I've got a drawer full of them here in a little parts container thing, where they come in different colors for different people, and some interchangeable hands. But then they also are doing him fully flamed on. And this is a really cool look. They did this with kind of when they did the retro carded Fantastic Four, they did a Human Torch like this, and it really does look good. And that's a great shot of that Johnny. And one of the neat things about this is he's got the 4 on his chest there, and the ribbed costume makes it look like in the old comics, Johnny used to be drawn while he was on fire with like black vertical lines across him like this. And so the costume kind of gives that comic book effect. And this may be worth getting just for that, even though I've already got a good Johnny Storm. But I like this a lot. It looks really, really cool. Then there's Susan Richards, the Invisible Woman. This is all we're getting of her, of this particular in this line. That maybe they'll come back down the road and do more of like an Invisible One. And this is another character I think deserves a maximum treatment, a comic book version of this, because this effect here, it's a little different in as much as it's got some things you can look where things seem to be bouncing off of. But this is generally the same thing they gave the last 2 or 3 Susan Richards, the Invisible Woman figures, is this one little shield. And she does so much more than that with her shield power and everything. And so, you just kind of look and say, oh, come on, guys. And then it's that same, I think it's on the more updated female body, but at the same time, those hands, like the lady figures, for whatever reason, get a hand that does like this. Like all the lady figures, that's all they do is this right here. And so her hand like this will plug into that shield effect and rock and roll with that. So, but then we got the thing, and this is interesting because as I was watching them do their presentation, I was wondering, is that the same body sculpt of the thing that we've had? And I'm not quite sure that it is. And I need to, I should have grabbed one of my Thing action figures before I came in. I don't think it is. I think he looks a little slimmer than that version of the Thing. And what makes me think that is this particular pose right here. I like the head sculpt. They say he's got a little bit of a wash on him to make his various rocks stand out, the rocky parts of his body stand out and everything. I can't speak to that because I can't really tell in the picture, but I like that head sculpt. And in the all the previews, he's fully clothed, but here it looks like he goes ahead and rips that shirt off to really show us that, it's clobbering time. But of course he doesn't talk that way. It's clobbering time is how he's going to most likely sound. So that's the Fantastic Four they revealed today. And it's always neat to kind of get kind of a through these toys to get a kind of an image of what maybe the movie will look like. No Doctor Doom, no Galactus talk, but there was this, and everyone knows how stoked I am that they're doing Shala Ball, and they're calling her the Silver Surfer. And man, this is a bummer to me. This figure is ugly. UGLY. It ain't got no alibi. The head sculpt looks weird, and if this is how she's going to look, it's very, very strange. Just the slick down hair look that you see. The board is new. It's got some texture to it. They say, and this is how they sold it, this is the biggest board we've ever done. Cool, man. But they've got a cool stand for it, and that's neat to have a stand. All right, you see that hand right there? On the 3 hands between the board and the board stand, that hand on the top left, that's that hand that is that same hand that they always do female hands in for some reason. For some reason, she's got a third fist because we all need a third. We know everyone needs a third fist, or maybe it's like a grip. I think that's a C grip. I think that's so she can grip her board is what that's supposed to be. So, the board is interesting. I'm not sold on this look. I'm not sold on this figure. There's just something strange. Like it just looks a little off to me. And, and everyone knows Shala Ball is the Silver Surfer. We're so excited that she's finally getting in the movie. Tintin says that figure fell out of the ugly tree and hit every bench on the way down. Oh, you know what? You're right, Commander Bly. The figure's not the problem. It's my old closed-minded ways. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I do think the Thing looks nice. I'm very pleased with that Thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. Then today they also showed some Gamerverse things, and the Gamerverse stuff would be traditionally they've done like Spider-Man, like the Spider-Man PS PlayStation game or whatever. But today they were giving a throwback to the Capcom versus Marvel stuff, or those Marvel arcade games that were like the stand-up arcade games. And let me see. I'm not going to show you everything because we just don't have time, and I didn't get them all plugged into into the thing. But you had like a Wolverine and Silver Samurai pack. The Wolverine looks okay. They were saying that he had some new articulation and stuff, but he's done up like the. I'm holding my hands out here because he's done up like the video game, and his little mask is like way out here. It looks very strange. But it's kind of like the video game accurate kind of thing. Big claws, because again, it's that over exaggerated Capcom version of Wolverine. And you had War Machine and Omega Red, which is an interesting pairing. I think the War Machine and Omega Red is a Walmart exclusive. Retail exclusives. You've got Psylocke and Thanos, and the Thanos has like a really big crown on his head. And that's when I'm not invested in those characters at all. Psylocke, Omega Red. I need a good War Machine, but that's not it because the coloration is strange. And I've got plenty of Wolverines, and I've got a Silver Samurai, so I don't need another. So I'm not interested in any of those actual packs, but I think the Psylocke and Thanos may be a Target exclusive. And there's something that happened recently. I didn't have it because I don't really do a lot of shopping over at Target because there's not one near us. But apparently, there were some Star Wars figures that were Target exclusives, and people pre-ordered them. And then because of all the tariff stuff, Hasbro and Target pulled the pre-orders, completely just pulled everyone's pre-orders. Said, no, we're not doing this now. And came back around with like higher price them. It was really heinous. Like it was not heinous is a bad word. Heinous is an over exaggeration. It was some shady business dealings. And our friend Adam Bray, just go follow him on X, author Adam Bray. He gave them what for, and it was quite amusing. I really enjoyed it. In fact, it's thanks to Adam I have these pictures of these toys to show you today. And then they showed a Captain America and Venom, and the Venom is blue, like colored like the video game color was blue. And that Wolverine is $150. That Wolverine hasn't been released yet, so not just exaggerated, over exaggerated, right? Yes, they're doing another Wolverine. Of course they are. There are figures that always need to be on the pegs. You need to have a Spider-Man, a Wolverine. I feel like you need to have an Iron Man and a Captain America on the pegs at all times. So there's one of them that's a GameStop exclusive. I don't think it's a game. I think it's like Fan Channel and GameStop. I should have plugged in the Wolverine pictures to show y'all. It's not important though to me because I have it, like I said. But then they showed this bad boy. They showed the Juggernaut. Now, I have a Juggernaut action figure. In fact, I have him right here. Let me pull him up here and show you. This guy right here. This guy is he's big. He's beefy. He came in a 2-pack with he and Colossus. Again, 80th anniversary. He's kind of a little bit of I don't know if he's even retooled. He's got a different head sculpt, I think. But I don't even know if he's retooled from the Build-A-Figure that they did of the Juggernaut. Now, I don't think does this helmet come off? No, this particular helmet does not come off. He's got a battle damage helmet that does come off, but he's big. Like you can see, he's a big one. Now, let me show you a comparison here because this will be important in a minute. This is him next to a Captain America. Hello, Captain America. Hello, Juggernaut. We will fight. Boom. Now I want you to see this right here. Notice this, and the reason I'm showing here. There's a reason I'm showing you this right here. You can kind of see where his head goes in and how he's. Cap comes up to his shoulder, a little bit. Really, if you stretch Cap's leg all the way out, like if I straighten his legs out, and you put them back to back, you see Cap comes up almost to his shoulder, but not quite. Juggernaut's a big old boy, and I've been perfectly happy with him. He's fine. And I really I like the big beefy chunky plastic things. Well, here's the Juggernaut they showed today, and you can't see it here because this is just a picture of him in the box. He is substantially bigger than the Juggernaut I just showed you. And this is why I showed him with a cap, because look how big his hand is. He's got that fire effect. Look how big his hand is hitting that Captain America. Like, he's huge. It is an awesome looking figure, and I'm sure he'll be $70 or $80, and I won't be able to get him. But you can see there, it's a good head sculpt. That the mask, the helmet is very well textured. The colors are good. Let me back up and look at something here. One of the things I like, you see his legs there, and like it's all new. It's all new sculpting and all new. And I think even the legs may be a little bit different deal. He's got toe articulation, which is a big deal for a lot of people, but you can kind of see kind of the pose he can make that way. And I really think that's a cool thing. But that's not the coolest thing they showed today from Hasbro, from Marvel Legends, from the Gamerverse. This is probably the coolest thing they showed from today. This guy, Gargantos. Now, you and I know this guy is Shuma Gorath, but apparently they can't use that name. Anyone want to explain that to me? You could find a home and with the thing, you sure could. I would think he's retooled. However, when you brought him out, I thought it was a Build-A-Figure. Right. He was. They did that a lot. Let's go. Tinton's talking about the Juggernaut. They did that with some of the larger Build-A-Figures as they re-released them, only slightly retooled, if at all. Maybe a different paint, kind of thing going on. And so there's some figures they re-released that were originally Build-A-Figures that were on older type bodies and stuff that didn't quite work. But this guy's probably going to be $150 figure because of all they had to do for him. Get a load of Gargantos. Now, I believe I know him as Shuma Gorath, but this is a really cool thing they've done. And all of these tentacles plug in to the little body like an arm would. You can see up here there is a articulation point. That little line is a joint, so those things bend right there. But all the tentacles are on bendy wires as well. So this tentacle that's wrapped around his little weapon eyeball there, you can straighten that bad boy out and pose him in different ways. Not to mention the eye moves, the lids are articulated. The eyelids are articulated. So you can get all kinds of looks from him. Here he is fighting Wolverine, and he slung his little thing at Wolverine, his little eyeball thing. And you can see how they've got him wrapped around, the tentacles wrapped around. He's there. I mean, it's just a really cool looking thing. Like it's that imagine. And so there he is. See how you've got the eyelids. My only concern is if these things get loosened up too much, you might not be able to keep them open, or whatever the case may be. Google says Funcom holds the right to the Shuma Gorath name. Well, who is Funcom? What is Funcom? If video games have taught me anything, it is that the eye is his weak point. I absolutely agree. You can't cut those tentacles off. They'll just grow back. His eye is the weak point. Has to be. I got to know more about this Funcom thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Steve to find out what is Funcom. Hey, AI, what is Funcom? It's an internet and catalog company that sells a wide range of products, including costumes, apparel, toys, and collectibles with a focus on pop culture and fun. They began as a small Halloween costume rental shop in Minnesota and have grown into a large... No, that's fun.com. Funcom. Our goal is simple: to make great games and have a good time doing it. It's a great place to work and play. All right, Funcom. They make games. All right. Well, why do they have Shuma Gorath? Games. Let's click on their games and see what games there are. Conan, Exiles, Age of Heroes, Dune Awakening, Metal Hellsinger, Conan Chop Chop. You think he's with Conan? Do you think that's a Conan thing? I don't know. That's interesting. Secret World Legends, Anarchy Online, Age of Conan Unchained. Maybe Shumagarath is something from Conan as well. Heroic Signatures evidently also holds some rights to the name also. Well, what is Heroic Signatures? What is Heroic Signatures? Where legends come to life. It's driven by desire to craft gripping science fiction and fantasy stories that engage multi-generational audiences across the world. Heroic Signatures, where legends come to life. Unleash your imagination in pulse-pounding tales starring science fiction and fantasy's most beloved characters. Explore our heroes. Okay. Conan, Call the Conqueror, The Mutant Chronicles. I can't scroll anymore, apparently. Zoom out, zoom in, zoom in. This is a terrible website. Refresh. Zoom in, enhance. Okay, I see. You got to click and drag. Solomon Kane. Solomon Grundy won't pants. Others. Let's click. It won't let me click on others. Okay. Fun times. I don't like this website, but apparently, so I bet Shumagarath. Let's do this now. Let's find out. Heroic Signatures is a company from Funcom. Okay. The name is tied to Conan and possibly even Cole. Okay, great. Thank you. Let's find Shumagarath. Shumagarath is a character appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics, created by Steve Englehart and Frank Brunner. Okay. The character first appeared in Marvel Premiere number 10. Shumagarath belongs to the Great Old Ones, a race of ancient eldritch beings who predate Earth. Is a recurring antagonist of the superhero Doctor Strange. Shumagarath appears as an adversary for Doctor Strange in Marvel Premiere number 10 in September of 1973. Steve Englehart and artist Frank Brunner created the character. The character's name is taken from Robert E. Howard's story, The Curse of the Golden Skull, which features a dying magician named Rotath invoking the iron-bound books of Shumagarath in a curse against humanity. Okay, there it is. So Robert E. Howard created Conan the Barbarian, and in one of his books, you've got the name drop of Shumagarath, which of course predates anything that Marvel did with the character. But now let's see. That should be almost in the public domain, because good night. He was only 30 when oh wow. Okay. So although a Conan novel was nearly published in 1934, his stories were never collected during his lifetime. Weird Tales is where it was. Okay. I would think you're getting close to that to that being public domain. But what do I know? Anyhow, back to Gargantos. Look at that guy. I'm telling you what. I'm saving some pennies for this guy. He's pretty nifty, if you ask me. So, yeah, and here's the thing. They'll do things like that where they're pretty neat, and then they'll do things like the Super Adaptoid, which was just a repaint of the 12-inch Captain America, and nothing really added to it. They didn't redo hands to make it able to grip a fake Thor's hammer, and they didn't do. Well, you know what? They just didn't do much at all worthwhile with that deal, and charge people like I didn't pay $90. I will be honest with you, I got it on clearance, and so, I just it's not my deal, man. Whoop, sorry about that. Trying to get things set for the next segment. It's weird to me. Like you know these guys are creative. You know they're passionate about this stuff. You know that they're okay. Look, Commander Bly says the cheap repaints help pay for the new good figs. I'm okay with repaints. I don't mind repaints and reuse. This Thor right here, this guy, he's called the 80th anniversary Thor because he came out, the same time as that Hulk. To me, now that I've got a custom cape on there, a wired cape. This guy, as far as his look and everything, is definitive. But they have reused him for Ragnarok, the Thor clone / android thing. They reused him for the Eric Masters Thor with a different head sculpt. I don't mind reuse. What I mind is when I got that super Adaptoid in hand, he's super tall. He stands great. They could have made wings for it. They could have made a couple of extra hands that could actually grip a hammer or grip cap shield, that sort of thing. That's my thing. And I didn't pay the full, like it was $90 when it came out. I wasn't going to pay $90 for that deal. Had I done so, I would have been really upset because it was that, even just paying like the $15 I paid at Ollie's when it got to Ollie's, I was like, I don't know, man, this is kind of a downer. It's unfortunate. It's a Debbie Downer there. So and that's where your customizers and stuff comes in. We got to do some toy talk at some point and talk about these Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, some of the other more independent companies that are out there and what they're doing. And though they've got a little bit higher price tag to what they're doing, man, it's really some good stuff. And it's interesting. All right, let's see what we've got here. Funcom's acquisition of the rights to Conan the Barbarian and related IPs, including characters like Shumaga Wrath, happened in September of 2021. The acquisition was achieved through Funcom's purchase of Cabinet Group, which held the intellectual property rights to these characters. Interesting. Now, what's funny is Conan the Barbarian had a Marvel comic in the 70s and maybe into the 80s. And he had the very Frank Frazetta look to him and everything. It'll be interesting because everything it gets sucked into Disney's black hole, when they get those rights from whoever's got them, and we get the Conan the Barbarian Marvel Legends everyone's always wanted. But they're doing some neat stuff. There's a toy company that's making some really neat Conan looking stuff. But like you think about it, they did a Marvel Legends Crystar. Why? Because he had a comic book based on that toy. Rom, the Space Knight, is out there right now for pre-order. Some people have already found him on the shelves and that sort of thing. Rom was out of Marvel's purview for the longest time. Now he's not. And he had his own Marvel comic. Those things get into some, I don't know. I'm interested by it, but I'm also, it also gets really, frustrating sometimes because you obviously business has to be done, and I get that, but man, sometimes you want the art to be better than the business, to outweigh the business. But to me, these guys are very passionate about what they do. They're very excited about what they do, and you can tell. And it's unfortunate that when they do make a quote unquote misstep on some things that people really, they don't mind letting them have it for sure. They'll go after them, and that's unfortunate because I don't think they're intentionally going out there to undermine the consumers at all. And, I just think that they're trying to do the best with what they got, and so, but some of the stuff they have done is disappointing. Some of the stuff that they are doing though, like you look at that Shumaga Wrath, that Gigantos or whatever his name is, Gigantos is, Gigantus is really neat, and of course they've blown their toy budget on that guy. So we'll see how it goes with that coming out and what people, because soon I think the pre-orders go up in June, which means your most popular influencers will have him somehow, some way by July, and already be putting videos and stuff out on him. So that's just something I found really cool, really neat, as that went on today. And the Gigantic Horse, yeah, that's his name, Gigantic Horse. He'll always be Shumaga Wrath to me. So we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we will we're going to talk the Fantastic Four. It's going to be some fun. All right. Big Fork Brands at bigforkbrands.com. This is what they say. Savor the flavor revolution. Love a flavor revolution with Big Fork Brands. They're Chicago's finest sauces, bacon sausage, and paleo jerky. Elevate every bite, Windy City style. That's what they say over at bigforkbrands.com. And at this time, you can go to bigforkbrands.com and try some of that bacon sausage or any of their sauces that they offer for 20% off any product using my code GEEKOUT. 20% is a pretty good deal off a product. So check them out. They have some amazing looking foods, to be honest with you. Let's pull them up here and show you a little bit of taste of what they got. They've got their big uncured bacon. And I think the pork uncured bacon sausage is really important because the uncured bacon part of it, that means there's not a lot of the sodium nitrates and stuff that's put in there, that it's going to be just really good, salty, fresh bacon that they're stuffing the sausage with. And then you've got your meat sticks that are a good snack. You've got jerky, and then the various sauces they have to try out. Let's see what we can see here about them. They say, based in the heart of Chicago, this family-owned business crafts the finest burger and hot dog sauces, bacon sausages, and paleo-friendly treats. Their standout product is the real Windy City sauce. It captures the essence of Chicago's vibrant culinary scene. Dive into our range of pork sticks, bacon sausage, and paleo jerky, all designed to satisfy your cravings while supporting a keto-friendly lifestyle. At Big Fork, we believe in wholesome ingredients and bold flavors, ensuring every bite is a celebration of taste. Elevate your meals with our unique offerings and experience while we're the ultimate choice for flavor enthusiasts. Embrace the Big Fork difference and indulge today. Let me see. They describe, go to their web. You really need to go to bigforkbrands.com and check out their sauces. Their one Chicago sauce is like every topping that you'd put on a hot dog almost mixed into one. It's almost like a comeback sauce would be for a burger. It's that, and they got a lot of good reviews. So I would check them out. I want to try this sausage. I'm really anxious to try this sausage they've got. And when I do, I'll let you know when I get some and throw it on the grill. But go to bigforkbrands.com, use my code GEEKOUT in the checkout for 20% off any product at bigforkbrands.com/geekout. Also want to tell you about Long Table heirloom grain pancake and waffle mix. They were featured on Shark Tank. And man, they have they are lovingly grown on regenerative farms, packed with protein and flavor. They say they're the breakfast game changer. That's your soundbite right there. Discover the Long Table heirloom grain and pancake mixes, where breakfast meets sustainability with our heirloom grain pancake mixes, consciously grown on regenerative farms. Each bite supports a healthier planet. Our mixes are not only protein packed, but also delicious, making your mornings both nutritious and indulgent. Whether you're flipping pancakes for a family brunch or a cozy breakfast in bed, Long Table ensures every meal is a celebration of flavor. Join our community of mindful eaters and taste the difference that sustainable agriculture makes. Elevate your breakfast game and nourish your body with Long Table's heirloom grain pancake mixes, because every meal should be a toast to the earth. They've got your popcorn grain mixes. They've got your blue corn mix. They've got your gluten-free mix. So it's protein is important part of your diet. And here's the thing about stuff like this. They talk a lot about saving the planet and that sort of thing and sustainable agriculture. Really, what's more important is it's coming from within the country, and it's coming from organically sourced food. It's just a healthier food to have. And I love pancakes. And this is another one of these products. Can't wait to get my hands on. Got to order some and try them out at longtablepancakes.com. And of course, use my code GEEKOUT. 20% off any product. 20% off any product when you use the code GEEKOUT. The link is in the description below. Check them out. Long Table Pancakes at longtablepancakes.com. And we got one more little funny ad. Just a taste of old school Big Honkin' Show / Geek Out Loud for you. Here's a classic. as we get ready to get back into things on Geek Out Loud.
Are you fed up with those annoying Bigfoot?
This thing was 10 foot tall. He had beautiful hair. I thought he was going to kill my little dog.
Save time and money with Sasquatch Stick. The Sasquatch Stick is a revolutionary device that rids your property of those problem Bigfoot.
I come out here and rough talk him and run him off.
Our product's been successfully used by tens of thousands of people and been positively reviewed on nationwide news programs.
So I go up here, this stick, he was standing right there. And I said, get away from here. Get.
If you're not 100% satisfied, you'll get your money back guaranteed. Works on most mythic beasts, real or imagined.
And he went right back out that path again.
Others may cost you $100, but for 4 easy payments of $19.95, the Sasquatch Stick can be yours. Limited time offer, not available in stores.
Here we go. Geek Out Loud, rolling on. Man, it's late. If you're listening to this live, sorry about the late hour. We got started late. Trying to make everything cool and use all the stuff that we've got at our disposal to the best of our ability, because we don't want to just be lame-o and just have me just sitting here talking the whole time. You got to have the fun graphics and everything. Speaking of which, comic books are always fun graphics. Leading up to Fantastic Four First Steps. And let me say this. I'm not overly hopeful for the Fantastic Four. I like the look of the characters. I like what we've seen of the Fantastic Four in the trailers, other than Ben Grimm's voice. I'm not a big fan of them doing Shala Ball as a Silver Surfer. To me, that's some silliness. And again, this is another thing where we're hearing about last-minute reshoots and stuff. Reshoots are common in Hollywood films. They're saying this is based on test screenings and everything. Could be. I don't know. One of the rumors is they're actually going to show you Shala Ball's decision to go with Galactus to humanize her more. And I just think, you know what? If you go back to Silver Surfer, The Rise, or Fantastic Four, The Rise of the Silver Surfer, we didn't need too much backstory from him. He just came across as initially very dispassionate. Like, he was never aggressive. He was never like, it was just kind of like, this is just how things are. And I'm not happy about it. It's just what it is. And so when he makes the decision to turn against Galactus, it's something that you feel like, okay, he had it within him the whole time. He just needed that extra little nudge. And it's interesting because when you look back at the original Galactus saga, it began in Fantastic Four, number 48, The Coming of Galactus. And this is a classic, famous cover. The Watcher standing there in that classic Kirby pose with the hand outstretched toward what would be the camera, basically. And it's on, man. If in 2025, if you've never read this issue, you look at it and you think, here we go. Let's get into this thing. We're about to get nuts up in here. It's going to be crazy. And it begins. I mean, you come into the whole deal, you're in the action. The Fantastic Four being tossed around. You're like, oh my gosh, Galactus is already there. No. This is tying up the results of the prior issue, where the Fantastic Four have, over the course of the past few issues, met the Inhumans. That is Black Bolt, Medusa. You see Karnak back there behind Mr. Fantastic, Gorgon, Triton, all those different people. And Crystal, who Johnny falls in love with, and they strike up a relationship. And the Fantastic Four finds themselves in the midst of like the struggle between brothers for the throne. And Maximus, the mad Inhuman, is basically set off something to vibrate the earth so bad that it's going to kill everyone who's not an Inhuman on the planet. And so we're dealing with that here. And of course, Black Bolt flies up to save the day. He puts a stop to everything as the king of the Inhumans. But in doing so, Maximus launches something that sends the Inhumans, places them in what they call the negative zone. Now, what's interesting is you can see on that panel, Johnny's beating against a wall because they had to pull him out of there, and Crystal stayed behind. So he's in love with Crystal. He's all broken up about that. He's sad. This is the end of an issue of a comic book. But instead, this is like page 3 when you get this stuff in this particular issue. And you see that dome down in the bottom right corner of this one set of panels there. That is the negative zone. This is before the negative zone is like the whole negative zone, but they call this the negative zone. So when we get back, then they take us to the cosmos, to the space, and we're introduced to the Silver Surfer. And Kirby and Lee do this thing where they really set up the fact that he loves what he's able to do, hurling through the cosmos, riding the solar winds, being the Silver Surfer. That this is one of those things that he loves. Now, his job he may not love that much, but he loves what he's doing. And we get a quick glimpse of some scrolls. The scrolls were introduced in Fantastic Four, and you think, oh no, here come the bad guys. No, this is just to show that they're out there in space and they see the Silver Surfer and they know they got to hide. And he says, wherever he appears, talking about the Silver Surfer, it is certain that Galactus cannot be very far behind. So they're like, let's get out of Dodge. We need to make sure the Silver Surfer doesn't stop here. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Fantastic Four are coming back from the Inhumans place, and the whole sky is on fire, and everyone's freaking out. So Johnny, because he's made of fire, he goes to check it out, and he's like, well, there's no heat. There's nothing burning. But everyone's seeing it, and they're freaking out, and they blame the Human Torch. This is all like the story. Like we've met the Silver Surfer, then we have all this crazy stuff going on Earth, and what we find out is it's the Watcher himself. He's causing these illusions to appear over and around the Earth so that the Silver Surfer thinks that there's no planet there that would sustain Galactus, because Galactus eats planets. This is like page 16. We're halfway through this issue, and the thing is, like, there was a time when Ultimate Comics were a thing, and back in the early 2000s, it began with Ultimate Spider-Man. And if you go back and read those, you're reading and you're reading and you're reading, and it feels like nothing happens, but they're also very fast reads from one book to the next, to the next, to the next. And Bendis would leave you on the writer would leave you on cliffhangers, and they'd kind of be resolved at the beginning of the next issue, but not quite. And you just kind of keep reading and keep reading. And this phrase decompressed storytelling became a thing where it was taking 6 to 8 issues to tell a story. What's crazy about this is not decompressed storytelling at all, but man, it is compressed. They are packing a lot in, and you are worn out by the time you get midway through, because it's like, well, we've been with the Inhumans, we've been this. And Reed Richards, there's this whole scene where Reed hasn't been asleep. He's trying to figure out what's going on. He's freaking out. He won't eat supper because he's like, I don't have time for supper. What do you think I am? You think there's nothing going on, woman? And you still have this whole family dynamic that goes on with the Fantastic Four throughout. Because Sue gives him the what for. She's like, listen, I'm your wife. You're not going to be talking to me this way, and I'm just trying to take care of you. We all want you to be okay, and you're not going to be okay if you don't eat some food. And like it goes as far as to draw stubble on Reed's face. It's crazy, man. So the Watcher is doing something the Watcher should not do. He's interfering, basically. But the Silver Surfer will not be thwarted. He finds Earth anyway, and he calls Galactus. Now, this image right here is something I had to kind of dig around and find out what was going on here, because Kirby also did this when they go into the negative zone. He wanted to do the whole arc of them going, not the negative zone that the Inhumans are in, but the negative zone they'll go to later, a whole other dimension. He wanted to do the whole book like this, but he didn't have the time. This is what he called doing a collage. And what he would do is find images in magazines, and would incorporate them into his sketches. And so then when you got into the colorization of it and everything, it's almost a copy paste method with his drawings as a part of it. And this is so like just the imagination of Jack Kirby to do something like this, where he would do. And what this is Galactus's ship and equipment showing up on Earth to set up his stuff to devour the Earth. And it's just, this is an amazing, like, imagine being a kid in the 60s and coming to this like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Jack Kirby is one of those guys that people say he's an acquired taste, but he's called the king for a reason. This guy was turning out page after page after page and just had an imagination that was incredible. So Galactus does indeed show up on Earth, and ladies and gentlemen, there he is. Now, what you can't see here in this picture is Galactus is depicted as wearing shorts, almost biker shorts, but he's got that awesome G on his chest. So in case you're wondering, it means Galactus, or it could just be like a Superman coincidence where the S stands for something other than Superman. Excuse me. But this is how the issue ends. Galactus shows up. This issue literally is the coming of Galactus. He gets there. And you'll notice the color scheme is weird. It's very Christmassy, very red and green. I get the idea that Kirby and Lee both had a different idea in mind for what the colorization of Galactus would be, but the way they did things so quickly back then, it just didn't end up happening. So that gets us over into issue number 49, If This Be Doomsday. And again, just an iconic cover with Galactus standing over the Fantastic Four. It appears there's some beams shooting out of his hand or some kind of energy coming, and there's the Silver Surfer swooping through. We kind of pick up where we left off, and now we can see Galactus isn't wearing, he's more into his maroon and purple stuff here, but you can see there he's got his shorts on. He's wearing shorts. He confronts the Watcher and basically says, you're not supposed to be interfering. And the Watcher says, you don't understand. There's life on this planet. There's intelligent life on this planet. Surely you can find something else. And this is where we kind of learn Galactus is a force of nature. He's not burdened by the life's lost and that sort of thing. Galactus must feed. And that's where we're kind of at with all of this. Meanwhile, I didn't show you this, but the Silver Surfer got. He was talking to the Fantastic Four, and they kind of attacked him, and he fell, and he's found by Alicia Masters. And Alicia is Ben Grimm, the Thing's girlfriend, and she's blind, but she has this, the whole idea is she kind of senses something. She can sense his power, but she can also sense a little bit of nobility in him. So what we get to do is, through the person of Alicia, develop some sympathy for this guy, even though he's alien, he's cold to us, it seems, but she is starting to kind of break through to him. Meanwhile, Galactus is building his stuff to eat the planet. The Watcher has at this point sent Johnny away on a mission, on a quest, and we'll come back to that. But this is a great panel by Kirby to me. The Thing's face, like you can see surprise and everything, and the wonder and the worry and all this stuff that's going on. But there's Galactus, and he just so happens to be using the Baxter Building, where the Fantastic Four are headquartered, to set up his apparatus, to strip the Earth of its energy and devour the planet, essentially. The Fantastic Four are going to attack him. The Watcher says, "Nay, stop!" And again, Kirby loved these outstretched hand kind of poses on people. And this version of the Watcher changes his look, not his look, but his look changes based on the authors or the artists that will tackle him down the road. And he starts to look more like, Uatu the Watcher that we all know and love. He he graces the pages of the What If comics, just like the cartoon on Disney Plus. So the Watchers explain to him, look, this is what Galactus does. And he kind of gives them an image of what will happen and how things will go. And he's like, you don't really have any hope. And so the Watcher says, I've got a plan. The Human Torch is handling it. Just wait. There's a machine that can save the human race. And Reed's like, let me have it then, And so the Human Torch is there. And so and he's saying, I can't really interfere. So the Human Torch has got to go get it. Well, back at Alicia's apartment, she's all over the Silver Surfer for trying to destroy everything. And, and it's crazy because we'll get a deeper backstory of the Silver Surfer later, but I love this where he's like, he's looking at her, he's like, at last I know beauty. You came from a whole other world, man, where you were in love, and that's why you saved the planet. But that we don't know that backstory yet. And so, now we get the conflict of the Silver Surfer. I serve Galactus. I can't go against him. Is kind of the idea. So we're starting to get this internal stuff. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four are attacking, and this is some cool stuff. You got the Thing tearing up Galactus's stuff. He's knocking Galactus over. Reed, you can see down there in the bottom, is balled up like a ball, and he's knocking Galactus out of the park. And Galactus does this thing where he doesn't fall all the way down, but he gets back up. And they're like, oh, so we can't really do anything against this guy. And he kind of puts them in timeout basically with his power. Meanwhile, Johnny has been thrust through the cosmos, through eternity itself, he says, through infinity and beyond, basically, to find this huge ship. And this is Galactus's actual space station. This is his home base. And Johnny goes to find this machine. Now, the machine is called the Ultimate Nullifier. And it'll be used to defeat Galactus. That gets us to issue number 50. And now it's the startling saga of the Silver Surfer. But Galactus is still going to eat the planet. And so Silver Surfer shows up and says, hey, you can't do this. Galactus is all about, what do you mean I can't do this? And now we see he's not wearing shorts anymore. It's almost like they're like, no, you got to color those legs. You got to color this. It's almost like they were working on getting the colors right and everything as the issues wore on. Remember, this is the first time we'd seen him. This is the first time he'd been drawn. This is the first time he'd been colored. So that's what's happening here. And so the Silver Surfer, Johnny gets back, and they do this great thing for a few minutes with Johnny where he's just like in shock of what he's gone through. Reed's all worried about the machine because he wants to, put a stop to Galactus, and Johnny, it just can't comprehend. And the Watcher tells him, he'll forget, it'll be okay. But those little nuances, those little touches in this story are what makes the Kirby Stan Lee kind of connection so good, is that they're not just saying, we're not just going from one thing to the next, even though it's a very compressed, full, packed in story. We're getting those moments of humanity. And that's one of the things that made Marvel Comics so revolutionary back when they first, with the Fantastic Four and then Spider-Man and the Hulk and all these guys, there was an element of humanity to all of them. And it caused you to care not just about their adventures, but about the characters. So it is with Silver Surfer, because he turns on Galactus. And so now Galactus is distracted and they're going to fight. And this is kind of the key. This is where Silver Surfer becomes a hero, and this again is a classic thing they would do in Marvel. There are a lot of villains over the years in Marvel who they find themselves becoming the hero. We talked about Thunderbolts a while back when we talked about the movie Thunderbolts. I talked about the comic and how a lot of those villains who had been part of the Masters of Evil decided they enjoyed being heroes. And that's not something new in Marvel Comics. That's something that's been happening over the course of the years. So he and Silver Surfer start having a battle, and Galactus says, well, I'll just hurt the people. And Silver Surfer says, no, I'm not going to let you do that. Well, while they're fighting, Reed grabs that Ultimate Nullifier and throws it up there in front in Galactus's face, and basically makes a deal: leave us alone, and I'll give this back to you. And what the ultimate nullifier does is exactly what it sounds like. It nullifies everything. Like it is the ultimate doomsday weapon. In fact, years later, Walt Simonson, when he takes over the writing and the art of the Fantastic Four, there's a whole arc where they go through time into the distant future where Galactus has become very huge, very hungry, and he's essentially devouring the universe. And Reed hands off the ultimate nullifier to him, and he uses it basically to wipe everything out so that he is free from his hunger at that point. And it's a cool story arc. I was so, when that particular story first came out, I was new to Walt Simonson's art, and I had a hard time getting past his art to really appreciate the story. Well, now down the road, I appreciate the story a lot more. I think that I'd have to go back and look and see who was inking, but I think that the inks do a lot to maybe detract from some of his artwork. But anyhow, so Galactus agrees to leave. He's gone, and but before he leaves, he banishes the Silver Surfer basically from the cosmos. And what we'll find out is Silver Surfer is left on Earth and cannot escape Earth from this point forward. So he becomes this tragic character, you know. Eventually he makes it back into space. Spoiler alert. But then there's this whole misunderstanding when Alicia shows up after everything's said and done, and she blows right by Ben to check on the Silver Surfer. And so Ben, again, we're going to get these touches of humanity. Johnny's out of it. Sue and Reed are taking care of him. Alicia's checking in on the Silver Surfer to make sure he's all right because she knows what's going on. Ben doesn't have a clue what's happened. He just feels like I'm ugly and there's no way she can love me. So she's found someone else to love. So I'm just going to have to go away. And he even has an interaction with a lady who screams when she sees him on the street later. And so we end with Ben Grimm just sad about who he is and his look. And we end ultimately the whole issue with Johnny Storm going to college. And he meets the guy he meets there is not Clark Kent. That's Wyatt Wingfoot, who comes into play and becomes a good friend of the Fantastic Four later on. But this whole it's amazing the way it wraps up and ends on such a human kind of storyline. The kid going to college, the big monster being upset that, you know, worried that he won't be loved or be able to find love. It is just, it's absolutely it's a great story, and it's a great introduction to two characters that would stand the test of time in Marvel Comics, Silver Surfer and Galactus. Now, Surfer would get his own book for a while, and it didn't go great, and then he'd get it again. You know, he got several runs at a book. I think his run in the 80s and 90s was actually really good, and there's a lot that happened in his book that set up the Infinity Gauntlet story arc and everything. I let Commander by Fake Surfer. So the Far Dog, come on now. Original Watcher dialogue. Earth's yellow sun changed the colors. That's right. That's exactly what happened. It is, that is a seminal story arc in the Fantastic Four. Now, are we going to get that in this movie? I doubt it. I doubt, you know, I'm sure it'll be kind of similar. What they did in Fantastic Four: The Rise of Silver Surfer, outside of Galactus being a cosmic storm. And here's the thing. I think that, you know, again, you were in the early 2000s at that point. When did that come out? Let me Google that for you. Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. So that came out in 2007. This was before Iron Man. This was before the MCU. And we're still in that era of superhero movies. We don't know that what's happening with Iron Man over at Paramount. We don't know at this point that they're going to say, we got to look like the comics. We've got to look like Iron Man. We have to do, what we're getting is we can't do Galactus. No one will buy it. But if there's a cosmic storm that has some sentience behind it, and we can do some shadows that look like Galactus, then we'll do it. And really, when you think, if you have someone that is that massive, and his ship and space station and equipment is that big that he's going through and eating planets, he's going to kick up some dust that's going to stay with him. He's basically the Pigpen of the Marvel universe. Remember the Peanuts where Pigpen always had the cloud of dust around him? And that was kind of my headcanon for that he's in that storm somewhere. That Galactus is not the storm, but there's actual mechanics and a person in there. But it was that time, and now we're at a time where it's like, no, we'll show Galactus because it's what people want. I mean, and yes, go for it. I'm all about it. Do that thing. And as but I don't know that we're going to get. Look, Rise of the Silver Surfer was a good story. You get Dr. Doom, coming out, and Dr. Doom doing what he does, stealing power. That's what he wants. So he tries to steal the cosmic power. So they're facing him. Meanwhile, the whole issue with Galactus is going on. Now, there was no Watcher, and there was no Ultimate Nullifier and all that stuff. But you have like the whole journey of the Silver Surfer and everything, and it worked. It really did. I don't know how we'll do on this one. I don't know what's going to take place in this, and it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Galactus lands. I don't know that we're going to get any Watcher action. I'd love to. I think that'd be incredibly neat. We've seen the Watchers in the post-credit sequence for Guardians, it was Stan Lee's cameo in Guardians, and then in the post sequence they walked away. And then of course we've gotten Uatu in the What If stuff. I think it'd be very interesting to see in live action, that kind of happen, but I don't know that we will. And then if you know anything about the post-credit sequence from Thunderbolts, it seems like something may happen at the end that does that. I want to say this. I don't know if Galactus is a universe devourer in the MCU. There are a lot of people who've been saying that kind of stuff. I don't know where they get that from. He is a planet devourer, and so I don't know that Galactus is going to play a role in any type of convergence of universes and the whole Secret Wars thing. I don't know that Galactus is necessarily going to kick that off. It'll be interesting to see, though. Again, I'm not feeling negative about it, but I'm just not also not super hopeful either. I think that we're definitely in a wait and see, but I just love the Fantastic Four, always have. So it's been fun to be able to talk about them for a few weeks in a row. And we've been doing Geek Out Loud for a few weeks in a row, but now we've mojoed it. And so it probably won't happen again for 6 months, but we'll find out. I hope you'll stick around with us as we continue on trying to do some things. Check out all the links in the description below. We've got t-shirts for sale over at TeePublic. We need to sell a lot of those to make a difference. But check out the affiliates and stuff, and try them out if you're so inclined. And if you're able, in a position to support the channels, the channel, the YouTube channel, the podcast at patreon.com/geekoutloud. We'd really appreciate your support over there. Matthew Ward just joined recently. Welcome back, Matthew. Welcome to Patreon, Matthew. We appreciate you being a part of what's going on. Your name wasn't in the credits because I did not make a new credit thing, and I need to do that and need to do a template rather than the way. It's a long story. I just need to shut up and say to you all, thank you for joining us. Thanks for the emails. The email is gmail.com, geekoutonline@gmail.com. Loved having some emails to read at the top of the show. Hope we have more and more of that to direct kind of the direction of the show. That'd be great. Would love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us live. Sorry to the folks who were listening at Mixler because there's no chat. I couldn't see what you were saying. My chat was gone, and I don't know where it went. Very sad about that. I have to figure out. Maybe I got to update it. I don't know. But yeah, thanks to everyone who joined us. Thanks to those of you who are watching later on. And hey, everybody, we'll see you around the Gulliver's. Thanks for being a part of Geek Out Loud. We'll see everybody.